Hi everybody, if you don't already know me, I'm Amy from the travel blog Templeseeker, and today I'm going to be talking about travelling with asthma. As many of you possibly know already, I do travel solo with quite a few chronic illnesses. So one of those is asthma, and I've had to kind of learn how to manage my asthma, how to deal with asthma on the road quite a few times. So I thought it might be helpful if I shared with you some of my travel tips. You might be someone who suffers from asthma, has regular asthma attacks, but you don't want it to stop you from travelling. And asthma absolutely doesn't have to stop you from travelling. The key thing is that you need to make sure that your asthma is under control. So first and foremost, you need to be having your regular asthma checkups with your GP and making sure that your asthma is under control before you travel. If your asthma is not under control, there's a chance that they might need to re-look at your treatment plan, and that could involve perhaps putting you on the next inhaler up. So I changed my inhalers. I used to be on the brown inhaler, which is a preventer, plus the blue salbutamol, which most people have for asthma attacks. It wasn't under control. I had a really bad year with my asthma last year, including a couple of hospitalisations both in the UK and abroad, and I couldn't understand why it kept on triggering. And when I went for my asthma review, they stepped me up to a green inhaler called Lufabec, which is a bit stronger. So now I have to carry a steroid card with me to say that I'm on a steroid inhaler. But since I've been on that, I've had no problems. So the most important thing is make sure that your asthma is under control before you travel. Obviously, you need to pack your inhalers before you go abroad. And one of the main issues for me is how stressful security can be, because quite often, especially in Manchester and Heathrow airports, they will ask you to take all your inhalers out of your hand luggage when you go through security and when your bags get scanned. So instead of just having one little bag of toiletries, I end up with two little bags, one for toiletries and one for my inhalers. But I did sometimes find that if I didn't separate out my inhalers in the hand luggage, that the bag would go through and it'd need to be unpacked and rescanned, which was a bit of a pain. So remember to do that. The other important thing that you need to remember when you fly with asthma is don't let them take your hand luggage off you and try to check it in, because it might have your inhalers. So you need to insist that you have your hand luggage with you, and also that it's like above your head. Don't let them move it all the way down the other end of the plane, because you might need to access your inhaler if you were to have an asthma attack mid-flight. So the next important thing if you are travelling with asthma is that you need to make sure that you know your triggers. So my triggers that I've identified, it can be hay fever if I'm in the UK during May and June. It can be very cold weather. So the cold in Iceland triggered it a little bit, and UK winters trigger it a little bit. Also, things like cleaning products such as bleach trigger mine. So I need to be a bit careful about where I stay. Sometimes in youth hostels they clean more frequently, and you're in a shared dorm, so people are spraying deodorants and things like that. So if it helps you, if you still want to youth hostel, just get yourself a private room. A lot of hostels have the option to have a private room as well as a shared dorm, and that can be quite helpful if what other people do might trigger your asthma. And then also consider the environmental factors. So the two situations when I've been abroad and I've had really bad asthma was once in Cambodia, and they do this horrible thing where they burn the rubbish on the street, and we were travelling in a bus through a village where everybody was burning rubbish, and it really badly set me off. I had to have my blue inhaler so many times, and I didn't know whether I was getting it under control or not. Eventually it did calm down. The second time, it was when I was in Portugal, and there were a lot of forest fires nearby, and all that smoke was blowing across Bragança, which was where we were staying. And I could not get my asthma under control at all at that point, because we'd got this constant trigger of the smoke, and the fact that I hadn't been stepped up on my inhalers yet either, and I did actually end up in hospital in Portugal, which is the only time I've been hospitalised due to my asthma abroad. But what I would say is that if you're constantly coughing, you can't sleep at night for the coughing, and you can't get your breathing under control, you do have to go to hospital no matter what country you're in. So when I went to hospital in Portugal, it was actually a pretty good experience. They really looked after me very, very well. They gave me a nebulizer quite quickly. They even kept me in overnight, and they then put me on intravenous, like steroid, I think it was, an intravenous treatment for asthma anyway, to get it back under control. And they dismissed me about 48 hours after my asthma attack. They were lovely in Portugal. Don't worry too much about being in hospital in another country. It's easier said than done. But think about which country you're in and the type of hospital you're going to end up in, because obviously Portugal is a lot different, for example, from Thailand. If you're in Asia, you might consider going to a private hospital. The hospital that I went to in Portugal was the National Health Service of Portugal, and they were great, as I say. But the most important thing regarding hospitalisations is that you must make sure that you get insurance, and you need to declare your asthma to your insurance company, because if you don't declare your asthma as a pre-existing condition and then you have an asthma attack while you're abroad and the insurance company find out that you already had asthma but didn't tell them, then they probably are not going to pay out. So that bit of it's really, really crucial. I would say overall, my experience travelling with asthma has been a positive one. I often find that when I'm abroad, it calms my symptoms down if I'm in a place with fresh air, because living in Liverpool, it's a built-up city, the air quality is not that good, the weather's not that good either, and bad weather or cold weather can be a trigger for me. So quite often when I go abroad and I'm travelling, I find that my asthma actually calms down. There's a couple of places due to air quality where my asthma got significantly worse. One of those was Bangkok. Bangkok was absolutely horrendous for air quality, and I just couldn't stop coughing in Bangkok. It was awful, actually. I was on both inhalers every single day and I was still coughing. So I spent most of my time in Thailand up north in Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai, and I really, really loved that. Basically, if you're asthmatic and you're going to Bangkok, kind of go see the main sites, like the main temples, for literally 2 or 3 days and then get out. And that's possibly going to be the same case for most big Asian cities. So just think about things like that. Make sure you plan your travel. Obviously, it's easy to say don't worry about it. You don't need to worry about it, but you do need to plan for it. And usually if you can get your asthma under control, make sure you're on the right medication and plan your travels, and be a bit flexible, because you may find that you have to change to a different location depending on your asthma triggers. You should be okay, and you will still be able to travel solo. I hope it's helped. One of the reasons why I do these kind of mini advice blogs is to help people who might be in a similar situation to me or with a similar health issue to me, that want a bit of advice. So if you've got any questions about travelling with asthma, or you've got any experiences that you want to share, please make sure that you write them down there in the comments. And please subscribe to my blog. It'll really help me to continue growing it and sharing the information with you. I hope that you've had a lovely day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.